Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And Nate, every single team in the NBA is playing hoops today on Monday, as we've got 15 games right before Election Day. So get out and vote. That's what we have the day off for. We're going to be looking at best bets in this episode. Also got play of props up in another one, and we're bringing both of those to you each and every weekday this season. So definitely make sure to subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along all season with us. Also want to let you know about the exclusive partnership now with BetMGM. We've partnered up so that you can go ahead and get $1,500 in bonus bets and a free $50 bonus bet as well, regardless. So go ahead and use that code, the lines 50 there, and that'll the lines YT50, excuse me. You can see it on the screen, obviously, and we'll get that over to you guys as well. Just a nice simple link that you can use to get over there. But let's get into our first best bet here of the day, Nate. I am in full cahoots with you on this one.
Oh, yeah. I like fading the Wolves here with the Hornets. It's all the way up to plus 10.
Sharp
and their team total is only 108.5, the Charlotte Hornets. I think books are still kind of overvaluing this Wolves defense, which, I mean, I wouldn't put it all on Julius Randle swapping in for Cat, but like just whatever schematically they were doing last year, it's not working as well, for sure. I mean, at this point, they're 27th in paint points allowed. That's just bizarre. Rudy Gobert is questionable in this one. I actually hope he plays for this bet. I know that's kind of counterintuitive, but I feel like the Wolves, if he were to sit for some reason, might figure some things out on offense. Their spacing might improve. They might start to hit shots. But in this matchup, with the Hornets missing Mark Williams and now Nick Richards, we're going to get a lot of Grant Williams at the 5, right? And he can guard Gobert, and Gobert has to now run out at him on the 3-point line. And we've seen that that's kind of the kryptonite for any Gobert-led defense. Brandon Miller is back now. This Hornets team is hitting threes at a very high rate. They have a big rest. I mean, they don't have a rest advantage technically here. They're coming off back-to-back games against Boston, games they knew they were not going to win. And now the books are also undervaluing the Hornets a little bit because they're like, well, they couldn't hang with Boston. Well, it's like, of course, it's freaking ridiculous. But the Wolves, I mean, very close game with Denver. Couldn't follow that up with a loss at the Spurs the next night. Gave up 32 assists, out-rebounded, out-hustled. And now they face a LaMelo-led offense that's pretty humming right now. I mean, the strength of the Wolves interior is not really applicable here when you have LaMelo and Trey Mann and B. Miller back to score on the perimeter. And they have a history of success here in Minnesota. If you remember last year, their trip there was when Cat had 62 points and they somehow let the game get away. And they covered in their previous 2 trips to Minnesota with LaMelo averaging about 120 a game. So he has not been stopped by Jaden McDaniels. He's playing very well right now. So I'll take my chances with him, at least, if they get into an early hole, him kind of coming alive in the second half and getting the Hornets the cover here.
Yeah, I really hope he plays, to be honest, because otherwise we're going to see Naz Reid. And if we do see Naz Reid, I love some stuff for him in this game, some points. If you can get points, I mean, they open at 11.5 usually when Gobert's playing, but that's just another place to look. I mean, it's pretty obvious who's the backup center. Oh, okay, I'll take him. He's going to get more minutes. But who is the backup center playing against a team with no center? Where even if Nick Richards was playing, he's had some good games this year, but he hasn't stopped anybody from doing anything on the other end of the floor just because he's gotten a few double-doubles, So he's not necessarily like that big of a negative being out for Nick Richards. I think, like you said, Grant Williams coming in is going to be really interesting. Not my favorite player in the NBA, but I understand the matchup that the problems that he causes there. So let me get to a game where it's like, scared money ain't making money here. And if you're scared of a 12.5 point spread, I get it. But I'm taking the Magic to lose by at least 13 points to the Thunder here, taking OKC at home, a depleted Magic squad. Man, I mean, we can talk about some numbers here, but like the eye test enough. Like there's no flow now. The Paolo was as important to the Magic as any player is to any team in the league this year. I think it's going to become pretty obvious already. Like Franz is going to do his thing, but Paolo is it. Like that's it. He's the catalyst. He's it. Like there's just it's a binary situation. Paolo in, Magic top 5 seed in the East. Paolo out, might not make the play-in, definitely not, a top 6 seed. I'll put it that way in the East. So that's number one. You look at what's happened to them over the last couple games, obviously getting blown out, the inability to score, the choppy offense, Jalen Suggs being your de facto point guard alongside Franz Wagner. They don't want to use Anthony Black. He's in the doghouse in some fashion. I really thought he was going to come in and be a Paolo replacement, at least for certain aspects of what Paolo does as a connector within the offense. And Anthony Black can't get on the floor for any starter minutes, and certainly is not active when he's out there. He's just standing in the corner. They've tried some Tristan da Silva. He's gotten hot here and there, but it's really about OKC at this point. We know number one defense in the league, and that's what this comes down to for me. I really wanted to take them to just get their team total at 115, but they've played more games this season where they didn't have to get to 115, and they just stopped. They just basically took their starters out at the top of the fourth quarter, and that's a big reason why they haven't had to get 115. Not that they weren't incapable of it, but I mean, look, SGA's points are at like 26 and a half. They opened at 25 and a half. What does that tell you? Like, the books are already going like blowout. Like, we're not going to put SGA points at the requisite 29 and a half that we've been putting it all season against a team that doesn't really have much to stop him anymore. Right. Like, I mean, their defenders are still out there, but I'm not taking Jalen Suggs to stop SGA one-on-one, especially with the weapons at his disposal. Without Paolo, no more free throw, right? They were a top 5 free throw attempt team in the league last couple games, right back down to bottom 10. It's a short sample size, but it's all I need to know. I mean, Paolo is the reason they're getting to the line, whether it's him getting there 8 to 9 times a game or, him finding open shooters because he draws the defense in. And the other thing that's taken a massive hit for them, which they could really use this game, is the corner three. There's just no ball movement. That's what I was saying about Anthony Black. I really thought he was going to be that connector to keep the flow of the offense and the ball moving around the perimeter, in the inside, out, all that. And it's just not. He's standing in the corner and just waiting. And the Thunder give up a ton of corner threes. The Magic were taking a ton of corner threes because they had really good ball movement with the way that Paolo sucked in the attention of the defense. And it's just clearly not the case anymore. In the last 2 games, they've taken bottom 10 in terms of the amount of corner threes that they've taken, as opposed to being second in the league prior to Paolo's absence. So there's no identity now for this team is really what it comes down to. And the Thunder, you want to talk about an identity, we are going to eat you alive on the perimeter with 6 first-team all defensive guards capable of being that anyway. Like, it's just an endless cavalcade of Lou Dort's and Alex Caruso's and Kason Wallace's, not to mention your best player, SGA, has like 2.5 steals a game. What else can we say about this Thunder squad?
Yeah, I've got some numbers for it because this was on my card as well. 90.8 defensive rating is what OKC is putting up. So, I mean, if you're going to bet a team total here, it's under 101.5 for the Magic, which that offense is poo-poo, as you mentioned. They've lost 8 of their last 9 without Paolo, that by 16 points per game. Now you're facing the biggest juggernaut in the Western Conference, at least. SGA has cooked Jalen Suggs. It doesn't matter if you throw him at it. He's 34 points per game his last 4. And OKC, my only counterpoint to this is maybe they look ahead. They don't really take this team seriously. They play Denver on Wednesday. Well, they were doing that on Friday when they played Portland, and it was tied at half, and they scored them by 23 to win by 23. And Portland actually had great offense going, 15 threes, 43%. Got to the free throw line 31 times. Orlando ain't doing any of that. I don't know where they hang their hat here. It is, and yeah, I also just wanted to bring up PSA again. Hornets are still up there, +8 at Orlando for November 12th in the NBA Cup, and there's no reason that spread should be this big without Paolo Banchero, and the Magic are clearly a bottom 5 team at this juncture.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna play the revenge narrative here and take the Grizz -5 in Brooklyn. I know Memphis has been a home road splits team in the past, but I think the revenge factor, it will kind of get them going for this one. They've also just gotten it going in their last 2 here since they lost to the Nets at home. But there's a big difference between losing Desmond Bane and Marcus Smart in the first 17 minutes of a game and knowing they're out. And they've clearly adjusted. Taylor Jenkins, one of the best there is, adjusting, getting replacement guys in there, and then suddenly just turning them into super functioning role players. And they're going 10 deep. They've got all this depth to throw at the Nets, who are very top heavy with Cam Thomas and Schroeder and Cam Johnson. And are they going to hit 60% of their threes like they've been doing so far this season? And I could see some regression here. Schroeder went 11 for 14 from the floor in this first matchup when Ja was just coming back from the bruised quad. Now he's clearly cooking. 22 and 13 his last 2, getting to the line. He's a +50 in those games. The Grizz are getting over 30 assists and in these 2 comfortable wins. I would throw out an SGP here conservatively, 15 and 8 for Ja with the money line. Gets you plus money. Maybe you want to go 20 and 8 or 15 and 10. because the Nets are not going to have an answer for him in terms of stopping him from getting to the rim. Nets are on a back-to-back here. And they were 30% against the spread in that situation last year, also 30% against the West. I just think the shine will eventually kind of start to come off the Nets. I mean, it did on Sunday. 92 points against the Pistons is kind of a warning sign. And so I think you can start to short this team after their nice start.
Yeah. I mean, look, maybe there's some weirdness that comes into play. I think you're playing the odds correctly here. I mean, the outlier almost outcome here would be, Brooklyn is good against good teams and bad against bad teams, right? I think when every year we get a team that you're like, wait, how did they lose to that team, and how did they just beat that team or hang around? And that might be the Brooklyn Nets, but I think the Pistons are still a year away from being a year away, and losing to them right after they just got their complete butts kicked by the Knicks by it was 35 points for most of that game. Not a good look. Detroit I thought would be a little bit better, and they're not. But Brooklyn coming out like that, coming soft to your point. No Cam Thomas, no Dennis Schroeder really showing up for them in that game, and they would have gotten blown out by more than the double digit loss they took if Cam Johnson didn't randomly just do one of his 6 for 11 3-point games. But let me close it out with a go-to favorite: Jalen Brunson over points, Jalen Brunson under assists. I don't understand how this is still so mispriced. It opened at 7.5 for his dimes, but the SGP I put together for Jalen was 20 plus points, under 6.5 assists. I hit under 7.5 last night, and pretty late, and it's very gone, just not around. I don't even think you can get under 7.5 or minus 160 anymore. So the 6.5 was always the correct number, but I still think this could be 5.5 legitimately. That's what he's averaging on the season, 5.6 assists per game. So just from an objective overarching stats standpoint, this man has not been getting 8 assists. I don't know what we're doing. He's gone over once. And this is a matchup against a team that you don't get assists against. Houston limits assists because they don't double off the ball. They stick to spot-up shooters. It's why they're the best spot-up defense in the league, and it's why they give up, as a pretty good defense, what we all consider Ime Udoka's teams are always going to have somewhat of a good defense, plus you've got good wing players and athletes out there still giving up the third most points per game to point guards, and in part because they send the point guard to the foul line, which is exactly where Jalen Brunson wants to be. This is a score-first point guard who's looking to get to the foul line. He's free throw hunting all the time, or at least just to get a good, easy shot from 15 feet and in, despite being smaller than most of the people defending him. So with that in mind, this is the perfect prototype of player to go ahead and get points, but not get assists. And that's why Houston limits assists so much is, one, they're too busy fouling the ball carrier. Two, they're too busy putting the ball carrier out on their defender on an island versus that ball carrier. For what I say ball carrier, like we're playing the NFL, but you get what I'm saying, ball handler. He's carrying the ball still. And in the NBA, they're definitely carrying the ball. But either way, this is that high pressure defense that we've talked about. You take the point guard points, you fade the assists. It's a beautiful negative correlation play where he's got his points prop is at 27.5, and I'm taking this for 20 plus, adding the assist to it, and I still get plus 138. If you just look at that one leg of the 20 plus, it's minus 800, yet I still get up to plus 138 with 2 legs because of that negative correlation that comes in. If the guy's going to have the ball in his hands, you're taking a risk that he's going to not get assists but get points. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do here moving forward. So, Dylan Brooks going to be fouling, not going to get any help, not going to have any spot-up shooters open. So I love this play at under 6.5, and I loved it at under 7.5, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, the chemistry is still a work in progress with Cat, too. I don't know when that's going to become a reliable pick and roll combination or who he's going to reliably get assists to. As you mentioned, Brunson has not really gotten to this total very often. He's struggling to score a little bit, too, so maybe that's the concern. But I think if it is a choppy game and you just have to find something in the half court, he will get it going, especially against a team that fouls so much. I'm sure he'll be able to get to the line enough to get that 20.
Yep, exactly. So that's all the time we have for you, though, in Best Bets. Continue to follow along and check out the player props that we have there for you as well. Until we see you next, happy betting.